Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. Thanks for joining me today. We are making one of the cards from this month's November 2023 card class, and this card features the Ringed with Nature stamp set. You'll find this stamp set in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog, and the card that we're making was inspired by a fellow demonstrator, Jenny Harrell. She had made a similar card using different colors, and I think she changed it up, that her background is different with the stamping, but I just loved the look of the card using the texture embossing after you had stamped. I've done that before on other projects, but I just thought this made a gorgeous Christmas card. And we're using the exposed brick 3D embossing folder, so you'll need to have that available. If you ordered the kit from me for this month's class, you'll have received the materials for this. And if you're watching this video and did not order a kit, just look in the description of this video. I have a list of all of the materials that have been used. So don't worry about writing all of these things down. But we're using thick basic white for our card base. Then you'll have a piece of just regular basic white that we're going to do the stamping on and then embossing. You'll have a smaller piece of basic white that you'll need, and that will be to stamp the poinsettia for the card front and for stamping your sentiment. And then you'll need a piece of the Granny Apple Green, which I've already die cut this, and this is die cut using the Stylish Shapes dies. That it has that piece in there. And of course you have your envelope. The stamps that we're going to be using from the stamp set, it's the Merry Christmas. We're also using the little small leaves that have the 3 little dots on it, because that goes with the 3 flowers that we'll be stamping. Of course, you're going to need the poinsettia. Then there is another flower leaf, sort of a combination stamp you'll need. As you'll also need the 3 leaves, and then the center for the poinsettia, which I noticed I forgot to stamp on my envelope, the center. But we're using the basic gray, which is for the center. We're using soft seafoam, berry burst, fresh freesia, and Granny Apple Green inks. So first thing we want to do is stamp on our card, that's the layering panel, the background pieces. And I just want to give you a little tip for this. If you sort of decide where you want to stamp and place this onto your card, so I'm going to do it about midway. I'm bringing a pencil in and I'm just marking, making a few little marks, so I'll know that I want to make sure to have the item stamped above those marks. We can always erase that using a white eraser, but it's going to get covered when we stamp. So the first thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead with our Berry Burst. Now this is full strength. Then the ones that I placed onto the card front, I have stamped off. Because this is very intense color. And we'll go ahead and stamp our envelope as well. But before I do ink it up again, I'm going to go ahead And I'm just going to place one of these flowers in this location. Now we'll stamp our envelope corner. And now this has basically been stamped off, so I'm going to stamp as such. We're through with the berry now. Next, let's pull in our Granny Apple Green, and we're going to place down a few of these sort of lilac or the triple flowers. And now here is where our little label will go. Pull in the fresh freesia and let's stamp those triple flowers. And you'll notice the center of these, I've got to pull this down so I can get over it. So if I'm out of camera, I apologize. But you'll notice there are little openings in these flowers. And if you line it up with those 3 little green dots, that's the center of those flowers. And they align perfectly on that. So we'll do the last of these fresh freesia flowers. We can move this out of the way. Now I'm pulling in the soft sea foam, and for the soft sea foam, I'm using it with the 3 leaves to just randomly stamp. Let me see where I want to place this. So I'm going to stamp one. First, I'm going to go this location first. And this is just faint flowers. Be very faint. Or leaves, I should say. It really doesn't matter that it's over your flower because part of the flower is going to be covered. Before I stamp another, let me go back and pull in the Granny Apple Green and this stem here. These I did stamp off with them. So let me stamp off, and then I'll place a few of those around. Oh, I hit the wrong color with that. That should have been Granny Apple Green. Let me see if I can line that and stamp over that. Looks like I did. That's the nice thing about these photopolymer. It makes it a little easier when you want to line those up. I think that's enough. So it's just as you saw, just random stamping. Let me close these pads. I'll bring our gray in and stamp the center of our flower, poinsettia. I don't know that it's really necessary. Now, if you'll notice, mine is a little bit lighter on my sample. I actually used smoky slate and decided there just was not enough contrast. So that's when I switched to the using the basic gray. I just thought that gave us a little bit better contrast. Also, when you have your green, go ahead and stamp your Merry Christmas. And I have a small piece here that I'm going to pull and stamp. And that one we're using for the Granny Apple Green as well. So make sure I move all of these out of our way. Next, we're going to take the embossing folder, that 3D exposed brick embossing folder. We're going to lay that in, line up the bottom edge to make sure that it is even inside. And of course, when you're using the Stampin' Up cut and emboss with the 3D, you do not need any cutting plate, but you just use the gray on top and it goes right through your machine. So now we have texture embossed. Pull and move some of these things that we need. So I have another Merry Christmas that I had also stamped. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut around Merry Christmas. You just take your paper snips and follow along. And once we get everything trimmed, we'll start assembling. Of course, you could also, if you didn't want to fussy cut the Merry Christmas, you could just leave it as a oblong piece and fit it across there, but I just liked the look of it being fussy cut. We just follow along, sort of the shape of the letters. And then, of course, you're going to do the same thing with your flower. You're going to fussy cut that. And as you see, it goes rather quickly. We'll just get these fussy cut. Go in and out. But I have one already cut, so I'll set that one to the side and pull it in. Now, of course, this one, I did stamp off the gray. I did not use the basic gray, so its center is a little bit lighter. But as I mentioned, I liked the darker center. So now we're going to fold our card base. We want to burnish that. And then because this is a pretty heavily embossed piece, I recommend using a strong adhesive, either the Seal Plus or the multi-purpose liquid adhesive, or whatever your favorite adhesive, but make sure that it's a strong adhesive to hold that panel in place. We're just going to align that. Then to make sure I have good adhesion, I'm going to press that. Now, of course, when this goes through that embossing folder, it does shrink the size a little, but it's still, with it being white on white, that is quite all right. So now we'll align this, place this over the center, and there again, I'm just using my adhesive. I did not put this on dimensionals because Merry Christmas and and the poinsettia are going to be on dimensionals. I'm moving this just a touch over more. That's what's nice about the liquid adhesive. It gives you a little bit more play. Now you have the organza ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip some. I can tell I have too much. And then I'm taking a glue dot, and you'll take the glue dot and just place it down and just sort of zigzag the ribbon. If you try to tie it, which I had done that, it makes too large it's just a little too bulky. So just use glue dots or a little bit of adhesive to sort of zigzag this back and forth. And I've had this curled up. It'll eventually straighten out. And I can help straighten it by just taking the end of my bone folder and work on straightening that out some. Move a few things. I've got a little bit of a mess here, so I'm going to pull this. I need to move this in a little closer. And this will go onto over our ribbon using our stamping dimensionals. And you may also, in the center, I'm using a large dimensional, but I'm going to put a couple of these mini dimensionals around on the little pieces that's of the petals, just so I can lay that down on there. And I still have that a little long. I don't like the way that looks, so I'm going to bring it back as such. And crisscross it. And that will be better. Yes, I like that look much better. And of course, these dimensionals will help hold that ribbon as well. Just be sure to check in my description, and you'll see all of the materials that we're using. Any other time, and I would just flip this bow right down, but you start trying to do something on a video and it doesn't want to always work out, but that's okay. We'll figure out a way to get that correct. And I'm going to take one of my mini glue dots and pop under that just to hold that ribbon down a little bit more. We'll tuck it in there so you can't see it. There we go. So we have our little bow. And last but not least, we're going to put our sentiment on, and there again it is held in place with dimensionals, and the mini dimensionals, I see I need one on this spot. I twisted those and moved where I needed it, so get that placed down for you. And I'll use mini dimensionals on the back of our sentiment. Now, if you don't have mini dimensionals, obviously the standard dimensionals will work. You may just want to take and trim them a little, and that will work. Now our Mary, we're just going to put a glue dot on the end of it because there's a dimensional there that has already lifted that portion. So we'll remove our back. So there, we have completed our, you can stamp whatever sentiment you would like inside. You can also do as I did here, stamp the interior, but there again, you notice I forgot to stamp the center of that. I'll go back and do that, but you can add that to the interior of your card just like we did with our envelope. But this concludes the assembly and stamping for our Ringed with Nature holiday card. This is Margaret Knight. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and like it. And I look forward to sharing additional projects with you soon.